Good afternoon and welcome to today's Health and Wellness Workshop. Come to a Memory Cafe. My name is Allegra Jaffe. I am a social service specialist in the Caregiver and Supportive Service Unit with the Fairfax Area Agency on Aging. Before I introduce today's speaker, I will go over a few housekeeping items. Today's presentation is being recorded, and a link for the recording will be sent to all the registrants a week from today. We have enabled closed captionings. If you would like to use subtitles, you can enable your closed captioning on your Zoom panel. Also, there is a Q&A button where you can submit your questions. We are going to allocate a few minutes at the end of the presentation to address your questions. Lastly, there will be a brief survey as you sign out. Please take a moment to fill out that survey because it will help us create programs that are relevant and important to our caregiving community. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Carol Blackwell. Carol Blackwell was a caregiver for her husband, Bob, for 12 years. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2006. Between 2007 and 2012, Bob and Carol were the subjects of a series of articles in the U.S. Today on living with Alzheimer's disease. In addition, they wrote a weekly blog for the online USA Today. Carol stated that Carol started the first Memory Café in Northern Virginia. She received the 2016 Trailblazer Award for Advocacy in Alzheimer's from the Sibley Senior Association Journey to Hope, DC, and in 2019 received the Excellence in Memory Care Award from Insight Memory Care. Carol is on the Clinical Advisory Committee at the Insight Memory Care and frequently speaks to groups on the role of the caregiver. Carol, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Allegra. I really am happy to be here. And also, I appreciate what your group does. If my husband and I had had the information that you provide in these webinars, our journey would have been much easier. So thank you very much. I'm welcome the opportunity to talk about our Memory Cafe, and I'm going to get the slides going and hope it all works out. There we go. All right, this is our Memory Cafe. Our Memory Cafe means family. And I also want to tell you a little bit about the history. So I'm going to give you a little bit about our story. So my husband is from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm from Michigan. And we both went to the University of Michigan. He went to get his PhD in political science, and I was getting a degree in education. So I had to take political science. I didn't like it. But one day when I walked in, we had a big lecture hall, and then you had small classes with teaching assistants. So when I walked in and heard the Southern drawl and looked at this teaching assistant, I was pretty hooked. I had a crush on him the whole time. However, I did not get a good grade in that course. And so I decided I would, get my revenge on him. And so we got married a year and so later. We moved to Atlanta, where he taught at Emory University, and then he decided he'd really rather work for the government. So he applied to the government, and he ended up working at the CIA as a Soviet expert. And so this one right here, I don't know if you can see that, he was able to go with Les Aspin in the 80s, I think it was, during Glasnost to tour a lot of the Soviet places. And so he loved this picture that he took being in a Soviet tank. So he had 30 great years at the agency. And when time came that he was thinking about retirement, he didn't really want to retire. So he said, I'm going to apply for some more jobs. He had been an office director and worked in a lot of groups. And he would come home and say, I've had a lot of these interviews and they just told me I didn't do well in the interview. And that was very unusual because Bob had always done well in interviews and always gotten good jobs. At that time, he thought it was because he was distracted by dealing with his mother who had dementia. his grandmother had dementia, his aunt had dementia, and that all these things had sort of distracted him from doing well at the job. So he did retire in 2005 and then was immediately hired by a contractor based on his reputation and his resume. But then he would come home and say, I don't understand what they want me to do on this project. I'm doing what I think they want me to do, and they don't seem to be happy. And this went on for an entire year. I started getting really worried then. And then he was let go a year in 2006. By that time, I figured something was going on. So we went to our regular doctor, who sent him to have a battery of tests on memory tests. And then we went to the neurologist, and they told us that, yes, he had Alzheimer's. And she was not very caring about the whole thing. I was protesting the fact that he was only 63 years old. How could he have Alzheimer's? But she informed me that people that age do get it. And what we needed to do was to maybe think about a clinical trial, call the Alzheimer's Association, try a pill, go home, come back in 6 months. That was a pretty devastating blow. And I remember thinking to myself, the world has ended. But of course, the world hadn't ended, but we started a different world. I also remember on the drive home, Bob said, I want to talk to other people in this situation. I want to see what they're going through as well and talk to them. And I remember feeling terribly lonely, because I thought, I know there are 5 million people that have dementia, but how do we get in touch with any of them to talk to them? The doctors aren't going to be giving up the names of their patients with dementia. You can't walk out in the street and say, hey, you look like you got Alzheimer's, want to join a group? So we really didn't know what to do. And I remember thinking, wow, there should be things more available. We shouldn't have to go through all this. So we spent a pretty rough couple of years trying to find places. And Bob did end up in a clinical trial at Georgetown. I would recommend clinical trials, not because the trial did any good or made any breakthrough. It really didn't. But because he felt like he was making a difference and he was helping. And every trial, even when you learn what doesn't work, is making some kind of progress. And when he went down there, they treated him like a rock star. So he really enjoyed his time. He looked forward to it. And that was something that was helpful for him. Later on, we found out through them two things. Number one, that's how we got into the USA Today, because they wanted somebody that was willing to share their story. So we did that. Number two, he was able to get on, and I'm showing this slide over here. He was able to become a spokesperson at the Alzheimer's Association. He spoke at one of their galas. They don't do that anymore, but he was able to speak at one. And also we learned about Friends Club, and I have a slide on that later, which is a group for men with early or mid-stage dementia. And that's I'm trying to think of where it is. I have a slide on where it is, but he really liked that because he loved talking to other people with dementia. In fact, we found it very interesting in our Memory Cafe that people with dementia would talk to each other. These men would laugh and slap each other on the back and be having a conversation, and we really had no idea what they were talking about. But for them, it was really important. So there was a support group for spouses while the men were in their activity, and there were lots of readings. And one day we were talking about a memory cafe, which we hadn't heard of before. So we learned that there were memory cafes that were people with the disease and their care partners that would get together in a social environment, learn about resources, and actually feel companionship. So my friend who was with me, she actually was part of the group, the first group that started in DC at Sibley Hospital. And then she helped me start ours in Northern Virginia in 2012. So we just celebrated our 11th year anniversary. So that's why it's important to me to find a place where people cannot be lonely. So let me tell you a little bit about our Memory Cafe. So this is the history of memory cafes. They started way back in the 1990s, and I'm not even going to try to, I'll probably butcher his name, but he was a Dutch psychiatrist in the Netherlands. And he decided that he'd like to raise awareness of the disease. he would like to fight the stigmas associated with dementia. There are several kinds of dementias. Alzheimer's is a subset and the most common from what I know. And I kept thinking, well, what stigmas? And then I realized, yes, there are stigmas. I was listening to the webinar last week that was really wonderful. And the one thing that she said is statistically, people with dementia are generally have less education and tend to be more sedentary, which is certainly not true of anybody that I have known, but that still appears to be a stigma. And we really need to work to break it. Certainly at Friends Club, there were people that had, my husband had a PhD. There was a man there that was an inventor. So lots of really brilliant people were there. So, so much for that stigma. To provide support for care partners and their care receivers. So then it spread across Europe. There are some, I'm pretty sure I looked up some in England and Scotland when I was over there at one point. They came to the US really not until 2008, which has actually been a long time ago, considering there are not that many memory cafes. There are now 1,000 in-person and virtual memory cafes across the US and in 4 other countries. So with them, they're really, as far as I know, there weren't virtual memory cafes until COVID came along. And then, of course, that forced a lot of us to go. Ours was virtual for about a year and a half. So there is a memory cafe directory if you want to look for one in other places. I hope you'll be able to look at these slides so that you can get on them. But that's not only do they talk about where there are lots of memory cafes, but they also have a lot of tips. And they have some joggers that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So what is a memory cafe? You may still be asking. It's a place where those with Alzheimer's disease or a memory impairment or other dementias and their care partner can find support, can find people that will listen to them, can find resources. Over the past several years, we've developed lots of resources that people can use and access that I find that people really don't know about. Can find companionship, and that's so important on this journey. So again, our goal is that the care partner and care receiver, and sometimes I will apologize in advance, I will say caregiver, because that the terminology is shifted to care partner, but sometimes I slip. A safe, comfortable environment for the care partner and the care receiver, a place where you can be comfortable. Opportunities to participate in a variety of activities. The activities are more, the purpose is more for fun, but in some of the activities, we try to also help them stimulate the person with dementia so they can recall a little bit better. To find, as I said before, resources in the community, can find friends and fun, and not be lonely. Who comes? Anyone with a memory impairment and their caregiver or care partner. People with Alzheimer's, which is the majority of the people that have been in our memory cafe, but not totally. People with Parkinson's, because sometimes in some forms of Parkinson's, it affects their memory in the later stages. Lewy body dementia, any brain injury that affects cognitive function. There is someone in our memory cafe who's been there since the beginning, really one of the people that are one of our founders. And he doesn't have dementia. He doesn't have Alzheimer's, but he had a ski accident when he was in his middle ages, and that did affect him. So he comes. Where are memory cafes located? They're located in senior centers. Sometimes they have a room where people can meet. We're looking for a place that's got space to relax and be able to do things. They're located in daycare centers, and I should have put adult daycare centers. They're located in faith communities. Most of the ones in this area are located in churches. And partly it's because a lot of the people that are running them are part of a faith community, and they have to let you use their facility. Located in cafes, you find a quiet cafe, in schools, after school, because there are big spaces in schools, lots of rooms you could use. In colleges and universities, again, places where you can find space. And in libraries. Our library in Great Falls is very comfortable. So lots of places where they're located. What it is not a daycare. Usually memory cafes go on about 2 hours to maybe a couple times a month, some once a month, some every week, depends, but it's not a daycare. It's not a support group, although occasionally we have support groups, but generally not, because it's for both of them. It's not a drop off. So I know that people that are care partners need to have space away and need to be able to do their own thing. But the Memory Cafe is not that. So we don't allow people to drop off someone and then leave. And it's also, a safety issue. What if something happens to the person? So it's not a drop off. How much does it cost to attend? There is no cost to attend. Ours is free, and as far as I know, all the other memory cafes that I know about in this area are all free. Participants may bring snacks. And so therefore you don't have to pay for food. Some memory cafes receive donations for events or entertainment. We do have entertainment, and we do have some events that cost money. And so in that case, we may ask people to participate just for that event, but generally, and we do have had organizations that have given us money so that we can hire entertainment, because I'll talk about that in a bit. Music's so important. So what do we do in our memory cafe? We talk, because talking is powerful and talking is important. So we start by going around with both the care partner and the care receiver and ask what's been going on with their day, ask how the week has been. Particularly for the care partner, it's powerful to be able to have somebody to listen to you. We listen to music and sing-alongs. Music is very important to people with dementia. And I'm not sure why, but I know that that's one of the last things to go. I've heard people talk about their loved ones that knew all the hymns of music in church, even when they couldn't talk very well. So my husband and I we're both in our church choir. And my husband was a tenor, so he wasn't sitting near me, who was a soprano. But I will always be grateful to the woman that sat next to him. She would make sure his music was in order, that he had things, that he knew when he was supposed to stand up and get down, because my husband loved the choir. And I will say that she said to me, whenever we stand up to sing, he knows the music perfectly. He's on pitch. He does a great job of singing. So he was able, because of her and her help, to stay in the choir until we had to put him in a facility. So music's very important. Oh, and I didn't mention snacks. I'm not sure I have snacks on this slide. So we have snacks, but we have learned, it's amazing what we learned in 11 years. There's some forms of dementia where the person doesn't know they've stopped eating. They don't know they're full and that they shouldn't eat anymore. So a couple of our people will continue eating. So if we have a lot of cookies or cupcakes, sometimes their spouse or care partner has to leave because they've eaten so much. So we've learned a workaround on that. We know people like to have cake and a cookie, so we have a couple there. Then we take the cake and cookies back to a different room, and we have healthy foods, so they can eat as many carrots as they want, and that will work out. So we're trying to kind of solve that issue so that the care partner can relax and not worry about the fact that the person may be eating too much. We play games. We play games or have entertainment at every single memory cafe. We do puzzles, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We find out about resources, which I said before, some new things, and we share stories. And there's a lot of power in sharing stories. We celebrate holidays and birthdays and anniversary. We like to have a good time. We like to party. So the goal of the activities, because we do have goals, we have thought about that, is to help the person with dementia recall words or phrases. We can't really keep the disease from progressing, but we try to do what we can to just push it back a little. So we do that. We help the person with dementia feel successful and respected. It's very important that they feel successful and respected. So we try to put them in situations where they can do that and where they get positive reinforcement. So the words that people say matter, but more importantly, as I know we've learned in other classes, is the nonverbal piece of it. So we try to always be smiling, be encouraging, and do things that will let them know that we really care about them. We create an enjoyable and relaxing atmosphere, because the more relaxed the person with dementia is, the better things go. So we do have puzzles. Now, I know we're talking about we're in a group situation. That's why we formed it. But there are some people that when they first come to the Memory Cafe, they're a little nervous, they're a little shy, they're a little afraid to come in. So because we have other people that help us, one person can take them and have them do puzzles that will make them feel successful. So for the puzzles, and Melissa and Doug, they have a lot of good puzzles. We're looking at puzzles that are bright, that are colorful, and that are easy to complete. No 1,000-piece puzzles. We want somewhere the pieces are not exactly the same size. I just finished 1,001 where I swear everyone was exactly the same size and same color. So we get some that are no more than 36 pieces, that are different sizes, that are colorful. The person will like looking at the picture and that they can feel successful. We have some, I don't have a picture of that are floor puzzles. There's one of the presidents that's a big 3-foot floor puzzle. And that's a lot of fun for the group to put together, because you can put 2 or 3 people or a group doing a puzzle. So we do have some puzzles. We also have coloring books for adults if they want to do that before they join the group. And you know, it doesn't matter what the picture, doesn't matter what color you have. It doesn't matter if you stay in the line. It doesn't matter. It's just something that people enjoy doing, and that can be fun. We also have we play bingo. We do a lot of bingo, and we play bingo in teams of 2 or 3, because sometimes the person with dementia, you know, it takes them a while to figure it out. So we do it slowly. We repeat it a lot of times. And bingo, you know, it's a game of luck. It's not like if you're really bright, you're going to win bingo a lot. It's a game of luck, and it's fun, and prizes. So we give away a lot of prizes, and they're very, you know, they're really expensive. It's the best that the dollar store can do. So when the winter, we have socks. Now I have to think about what we're going to do for prizes, but we have a lot of prizes. There's much laughing. And that's good for the care partner as well as the care receiver. We play Scattergories. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, so I kind of showed it on there. It's a little more complicated, but not really, and we do it in teams as well. We do almost anything in teams so that the person with dementia can feel they're part of a group, and, you know, we can kind of play off of each other. So with Scattergories, what it is you have a list of, you see a list here of words. And so the words may be things that are found in your kitchen, what might be in your backyard, bands that were popular in the 60s. So there's a list of 12 things, and then you write down, then the person rolls the dice, and you see in this case an N came up, and you've got a timer. So what they would do is then you turn over the timer, and they would have however much time it is to list the 12 things on their list that all start with the letter N. And then at the end of the time, we say stop, and then people call out their answers. And if you have the same answer as someone else, you're both disqualified. So the idea is try to be as creative as you can in this. And there's lots of arguing back and forth. There has to be judging. it's just a lot of fun. It's not necessarily easy to do, but there's really no wrong answer. You just kind of throw something out there and have a good time. So we played this game a lot. We also do memory joggers, and I think I found them on that one website. So I'm going to ask Allegra, you are going to be the scapegoat, I guess. You have to finish these phrases. So these are common phrases that help our old recall in our brain. So this is helpful for the people with dementia. They do better than the rest of us do. So I'm going to start with, you have to finish the phrase, Allegra. Easier said than
Done.
right. And I have the answers here because some of them I didn't get right. Don't judge a book by
Its cover.
good job. A penny for
I don't know. Is it $1?
no.
Okay.
No,
A
that's
penny
wrong.
for
No,
thought.
that's
For
a very
thought?
interesting answer. It's for your thoughts. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we're never wrong. We always just have more creative answers. Best thing since
Sliced bread.
yes. Keep your eyes.
Keep your eyes on the road.
Nice. That's very good, but it's peeled, but that's all right.
Okay.
And see, the younger generation doesn't know all these. Inducted into the
Wall of Fame. Hall of
yes,
Fame.
Hall of Fame. Let's get down.
And boogie.
Okay, where was this? Where I gotta find this one?
Let's get down to business.
Yes, but bookie is better. Hanging on by
A thread.
yes, a blessing in.
A disaster.
You see, your grandma would know that. Disguise. A blessing in, sorry, but yes, but that's probably your answer is just as good. Okay, so this looks lots of fun, and you can find that on the Memory Cafe directory website. So these are fun to do, and these are also things that are fun to do at home. If Memory Cafe is all about being together, but I'm trying to think of things that will help care partners when they're at home with their loved one. We love liar, liar, pants on fire, which someone told me is really not politically correct terminology to call somebody a liar. But we're trying to figure out the one that is not true. And I think, Allegra, you were going to do,
yes.
What were you going to do?
So for the audience, you can use the Q&A box and play along with us. And I'll read out some of the answers, Carol, when you.
All right. So the point of this thing is to show the one that's not true. And the reason that we use it is because it's not a game of, if you were really, really brilliant, you might know all the facts, but some of these things are so ridiculous that anybody could get them wrong. I mean, say the one that we played it last week and people were like on the floor, but there was one asking, does a toilet flush an E flat? I mean, and actually it does. Okay, so these are the three choices. The musician Prince's full name is Prince Rogers Nelson. So there's only one of these that's not true. 800 miles of spaghetti are eaten in New York every day. And a donkey stallion is called a jack. So you would lead them in telling which one is not true.
Okay, so you can put 1, 2, or 3 in the Q&A box if you want to take a guess and play along of what is not true. Somebody says 1. Oh, here we got a few more coming in. 2, 3, 1. A little bit of everything. 2. Okay. Another 2 with a question mark, Carol.
Tell me when you want the answer.
All right. I think we're ready.
All right.
Let's see.
2 is the one that is not true. I mean, I think they had a list of how many miles of spaghetti we're eating, but anyway, okay, I'll give you a couple more. Which one is not true? Number 1 is a golden rivet was fitted to every British naval ship for good luck. Number 2, a horse's teeth can be used to estimate its age. Number 3, the red Santa Claus was created by Coca-Cola for an ad in 1931. So which one of these is not true?
Okay. We have 1, 3, 3. 3 seems to be a popular answer. 1, 1. Maybe it's 1.
Nobody said 2.
No, not yet.
Okay. All right, the one that is not true is number 1, because our whole Memory Cafe had like number 3 is the one, but that actually is true. Like, go figure. So
Wow.
number 1 is not true. And the last one, but you can see why this is a fun game to do, because it really doesn't matter how intelligent you are. Which one is not true? The most popular pub name in the UK is the Red Lion. Lightning never strikes twice in the same place. There are more plastic flamingos in the US than real ones. Which one is not true?
Okay, we have 1, a 2, 2. 1, 2. Looks like 1 and 2 is another 2, another 2, another 2.
Okay. And you are correct. The answer that is not true is number 2.
There we go.
Okay, so that's something that we play a lot and causes a lot of laughter, which we're looking for. These are more active games. That depends on the group and whether or not they want to do things that are more active. I mean, these are also things you can have at home. But this is what we use. So you have a bean bag to do the tic-tac-toe game, which is more difficult than it looks. We play corn pone, which is the one in the middle. You can see we've got this yellow thing you throw in and you get 1, 2, or 3 points. We keep track of the points and there are always prizes and laughing. But to be quite frank, the people with dementia have just as much skill as the rest of us do. So it's not like if you have dementia, you can't do these things, depending. And then the one over here you see is a dartboard. And notice that the darts do not have sharp points on them. They have magnets. So people like to play that one as well. We also have indoor, outdoor games, and we do think about the games ahead of time. Sometimes in the beginning, I wasn't thinking as clearly as I should have. So this one can be played outside or inside, and you have a hula hoop that you put in the middle. And then you can see that these have got little golf ball-y things on them. So it gives them some weight. So you stand either 3 to 5 feet away. I can't do it 5 feet away. That's too far. But you try to throw it into the hula hoop. So you get 5 points if it gets inside the hula hoop. And you get 3 points if it gets on the edge of the hula hoop, or 1 that if it's close outside, and by close we may mean a foot away. So we're very liberal in giving points. But this one can be played inside or outside. And talking about ones, when we first started and we were doing some things outside, I found a set of croquet, a croquet set in my garage. So I thought that would be a perfect game. But it wasn't, because you have to think about the people with dementia. You know, you hit it outside and then they're supposed to go to the right and then back to the middle. And that was too confusing. So we quickly decided we didn't care which direction they hit it in. And then we didn't do it as much. This one became more popular. So we learn, you know, generally, but we do try to think through, how's the person with dementia going to be able to work this so they can feel successful. That's the whole point of it. So I've got some pictures of ours. We start catching up with what's been going on. We celebrate any birthdays or anniversaries. We have games or music or entertainment. So this is our typical schedule. And there's 2 every month, but sometimes I couldn't think of original things to do. In January, we'll do bingo and liar, and Scattergories sometimes the same time. We have a sing along because music's so important. And I've got some video things of there. Hope you can hear them. February, we always have a Valentine party. And what we've done in some years is we will have, because we have a lot of spouses, not totally, but some spouses, and we'll have them bring in wedding pictures, but not put their name on it. And we'll mix them all up and people have to identify who the married couple is. And I thought this will be so easy until the year that nobody recognized my husband and me. We have the Harmony Heritage Singer. Now that's a group that we do have, they do ask for a donation, but they're wonderful and we love to have them come. And in March, we always have a St. Patrick's Day party and we have games. This is our Valentine's party. And you'll see that the room that we have it in, it's a church, the high school room for the church, and it's comfortable and we can decorate. And also the video there is I'm able to do it by Zoom as well. So if people can't come, they can Zoom in. And these three ladies right here are a godsend because they're church members and they help. They're always ready to listen to anyone. They do a wonderful job. This is our St. Patrick's Day party. We've gone from red to green. In April, we have our Easter egg hunt. So our next one coming, I'm not around the first week of April, but on April 20th, we're going to have our Easter egg hunt. Doesn't matter that Easter will be over. So that's always very popular. People go into a lot of the rooms of the church to find Easter eggs. And we also are going to have the Hawaiian Stars, which is a hula group. In May, we are having Arts for the Aging, which is an opera. But it's not, they don't come and sing opera. It's interactive. They make us come and do parts and then we have to do props and it's a lot of fun. And then we have games again. And in June, we have a Flag Day where we sing patriotic songs and we do bowling. I've got a picture of our bowling later. So these are some things. These are the Hawaiian Stars. They come once a year. They do a wonderful job. And that's another picture of them over there. They change costumes often.
Darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. You're doing good.
So the reason I put that in is April is one of our care partners. Her husband is there. She has a beautiful voice and you see how encouraging she is. So Peter Burrows is the one that comes from the opera. I don't have a video of that, but you can see that he's including everybody. He's singing to people. I think this one was Carmen. Yeah, this one was Carmen. And they're going to be doing La Boheme for us in May. So, and that's another one where we have to pay the people to do it because of course they can't do it for free. Arts for the Aging does a lot of wonderful things, but that's okay because we get donations. And these are the Harmony Heritage Singers and they were with us in February. So they do a great job. They have there's usually, I think as many as 24 in the group. Not quite as many could come this time, but they have a quartet of men in their 90s, have great voices, and a quartet in their 80s. So they're always popular. So we're off in the summer. We're off in July and August. And in September, we have a sing along with Jimmy. We have a canine companions. I have some pictures of them. In October, we always have a Halloween party. That's a big deal. We play games. November, we have Veterans Day, a sing-along usually. And in December, we have a holiday party at my house where we play games. So here are some, I'm going to give you some pictures of groups that are going on. These are our Halloween parties. People really dress up. We have a good time. We've learned, I keep learning lessons the hard way. So one year I thought it'd be great for us to have real pumpkins that we sweep down the hallway. That was not such a great idea. A lot of them sort of fell apart after about the fourth time. So now we have plastic pumpkins, but people really like to dress up. Again, these are the Harmony Heritage Singers in concert. And over here are the canine companions, and they come a couple of times a year. So this is a win-win scenario. These dogs are being trained for people in wheelchairs and people that need companions. So they're support dogs, but they have to learn not to be distracted by a lot of people, by noise, by people coming at them. So they bring them to our Memory Cafe because we love to see the dogs, but also it's training them to do their job. And they kind of train in our church, so that works out as well. Alan and the Beat Goes On was wonderful. As you can see, everybody gets an instrument. So he did a great job. They brought all these drums and different instruments in. People loved the music. They were able to keep the beat. They felt successful. So we try to do things that are win-win. So I've got some more pictures of Alan and the Beat Goes On in past years. We have more fun. So the one in the middle, we have a 5-pound bowling ball and we set up the pins. So the 4 of us are the pin setters, and people roll the ball down, and the people with dementia do far better than the rest of us. We keep score, we play 3 rounds, and everybody really encourages everybody. There's lots of applause. So that's a win-win. People love to do that. We were able to go on a cherry blossom cruise once, several years ago. We rented a bus. And on the way back, we visited the World War II monument because a lot of the people in Memory Café fought in World War II. So this is our Memory Café for you. One of our care partners named it. It meets the first and third Thursday from 1:30 to 3:30 at Andrew Chapel United Methodist Church on Trapp Road in Vienna. And it's right near Wolf Trap. Right now, you sort of have to detour around because of Route 7, but I'm sure one day Route 7 will be fixed. So write to me. This is my contact information. I'm happy to give you any information at all. Other memory cafes are Insight Memory Cafe, and they now have 2. And the one thing we decided to do is we don't have memory cafes on the same day at the same time. We're not competing. We want anybody to come anytime. So I'll leave this information on where they are. They meet the 3rd Wednesday, and then their Sterling branch meets the 2nd Thursday. Club Memory is the first one that was started in 2011, and they have things. They decided that they would have a memory cafe in every ward of DC. I don't know what COVID did to theirs, if they're still meeting that way, but this is the last information that I had on them of who to get contact with. And I know you're going to be able to see the slides so you can get in contact with them. It's not at the hospital anymore. It's at a Methodist church in DC that's nearby. My friend Nicole runs 2 virtual memory cafes, Alexandria and Silverado. And this is her information. Insight Memory Care is another. Those are all the memory cafes that I know about in the area. There had been some run by the Alzheimer's Association in Maryland, but I couldn't get any information on that, so I'm not sure about that. Insight is a wonderful, wonderful resource. They do a great job with people that have dementia. It was not really in the form it's in now. When my husband had dementia, it was diagnosed, but I would recommend them for because they do classes for caregivers as well as having an adult program. And they've opened another branch now out in Sterling for some programs, which is okay, closer for the people that are living in Northern Virginia. At least for me, Fairfax was far from me. And also for this group does a wonderful job of having people know about Alzheimer's. I'm just so impressed. I really appreciate it very much. Friends Club is the one I talked about. It's for men in their early and mid stage. This is the information. The person that helped me start our memory cafe is now the chairman of the board for Friends Club. So we try to do what we can for other people. If you want to start, if we're too far and you want to start a memory cafe, let me know. Please contact me. I'm happy to start them anywhere. I have some extra puzzles, extra, etc. So you have to think about where would the best place to hold it, who's the target audience, who needs to be involved, what resources you need, how to advertise. I would say the only thing I would say is what you really need to have is a comfortable place and someone that knows sort of about dementia and what it's like. This is our Memory Cafe. This was after we had seen the Hawaiian stars. So traveling with your loved one on the Alzheimer's journey or dementia journey is difficult. Sharing the journey with others can make it easier. And this is a quote that I found in a magazine about memory cafes. I wish people could know from the start of the diagnosis that memory cafes are available for them. It lets them know they're not alone in this caregiving and they have a safe place. So thank you, Allegra. Do you want me to I'll escape it now?
Oh, thank you, Carol. And here, I'll take the screen.
Yeah, you take it over.
Yeah, no problem. So thank you so much for that great presentation, Carol. And, for sharing about your personal journey and, how it can be a long journey and it can be lonely. So how great it is to connect with others. So thank you so much. And at this point, I would like to invite our audience to submit their questions. You can use the Q&A button and I'll read your questions to Carol as they come in. While the audience is working on that, Carol, I do have a few questions for you as well. One of them is, what are some of the challenges that you have faced in growing the Memory Cafe?
Well, COVID was a big one because we were up to maybe 25 people, and during COVID, we had to go virtual, which was good. I mean, that was helpful, but a lot of it does a number on people with dementia, and a lot of the people in our Memory Cafe had to be put in facilities, and several of them died. So that was a big challenge. Overcoming to some extent the stigma has been a challenge, because sometimes the care partner will say, oh, well, I don't want my loved one to be, he's not like these other people. And, that's, to me, is crazy. It's a disease. People can't help it, and they need to be with others. So those are some.
Do you have some tips or lessons that you've learned that you would like to share with other families on this journey?
Tips on a Memory Cafe or tips on dementia?
On dementia.
On dementia. Yeah, taking courses in how to deal with people with dementia will save you a lot of not trouble, a lot of problems, because I think for those of us, even though we may sort of know, when I saw my husband changing, I would tend to still say, don't you remember? I told you this already. Why can't you remember? And that just makes them frustrated. And anything that makes them frustrated, then they become, stressed and more difficult. So if I had known about the fact that constantly never argue with them, redirect, change their focus, that would have saved a lot, because he would have stayed more relaxed longer, and it would have been just easier.
Another question came in. How can you convince your care receiver to attend a Memory Cafe?
We have heard people say, look, they have this group here and they need help. They need somebody to come and help them. So would you come and be a helper for them, or help them navigate through it? Or it's just a group that we're having fun. It's a social group. We're going to have these singers are going to come. Why don't you just come and listen? Sometimes that can be helpful. Sometimes saying, this is the thing for people that have dementia, they tend to not want to come.
Another question, how do you find people who might want to come to the Memory Cafe? Is it okay if someone has a memory impairment, or is it considered disrespectful?
You mean to ask them to come to a Memory Cafe?
Yeah, I'm thinking this question, and for the participant who wrote this, feel free to correct me, but I'm thinking if they're starting a Memory Cafe and they're trying to get people to come to it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We did a lot of advertisement. We were speaking at groups where it was people that had people with dementia. I'm trying to think of now, like you can advertise in the Golden Gazette and the local papers. And I know your group does a wonderful job of that. So we did a lot of that in the beginning of trying to advertise. And even then we still only got 6. We had 3 couples initially, but because of word of mouth, then it starts growing and continuing to advertise. We ended up with like 30 some. And we could probably manage up to 40, but then we might want to start a different one. So yeah, it takes a while. It took us a good year to really get off and running. And then, as I said, COVID did a number, but we're building up again. So it's just constant advertisement.
The second part of that question is it okay to ask if someone has a memory impairment, or is that considered disrespectful? So to like ask somebody.
Well, I don't think it is, but I think we might frame it in terms of, we're starting a memory cafe. Do you know anybody that might be interested? So that way you're asking, but you're not really saying, that I think you have a memory impairment, because a lot of people are in denial. And a lot of the caregivers are in denial as well. I mean, I should have figured it out ages before, but it's a hard thing to realize. So maybe to say people are starting one, would they really want people to come? Do you know anybody that might be interested? Or do you want to come and see what it might be like? So then you can see if other people might be interested. That might work.
A question came in regarding your husband. What did you do after he passed that helped as a single woman?
I got involved in other things. I got involved in, I joined the Y, and I started, because in the last few years, I went up to the assisted living twice a day to feed him, because he wasn't able to feed himself. So he was in a facility for 6 years. So there was some time to do things on my own, but I did. So during that time, then I joined a class at the Y. So I didn't have to think about that. I started volunteering more at missions at the church, and I got involved in tutoring. So I did a lot of volunteer activities to keep myself busy, because it's hard to just sit around and think about it. It just doesn't help.
No. Is there a network / resource of Memory Cafe volunteers? George Mason Library would love to host a Memory Cafe.
Oh, yes, I think I talked to that person. I don't know, usually for me, it's volunteers that were in the church. And for all the other ones that I know, it's people that are volunteer because they're part of their organization. But I think if you sent out something, there are a lot of spouses who lost loved ones, or family members that would love to volunteer and give back. So I would think if you just advertise, you might get some. It's, how can I say this? It's not just anyone in a way. The people that volunteer at the Memory Cafe are willing to listen. Mainly people want someone just to listen. So you want volunteers that are good listeners, but that know something about the disease, so they know about not arguing and not asking questions that people can't answer. So you want some awareness, but they wouldn't need to be an expert.
Someone else asked about when did you know it was time to move Bob to a facility?
So that's a good question. And I was talking to someone, it doesn't matter when you do it, you still have guilt about it. I mean, I still feel guilty even though, so this was what happened. Bob forgot who I was. He became kind of afraid of me. Sometimes he thought I was his mother when he had a crush on someone at the daycare he went to. He thought I was his mother, and so he wanted to date her. But sometimes he was afraid of me. And one time he woke up in the middle of the night and said, "They're coming. We have to get out now." And I was able to talk him out of it, but I realized that Bob, he was bigger than me. And if he decided to go out in the middle of the night, there is nothing I could physically do to stop him. And what happens then? So I started worrying a lot about it, because he would all of a sudden, every once in a while, make these strange things and say he was going to leave. And as I said, I couldn't stop him. So the only way to keep him safe was to put him in a facility. And when he went to the facility, he then knew who I was. When I would come in, he'd call me by name, but at home, he'd been afraid of me. So yeah, things that happen when you think they're not going to be safe if something happens, and our primary job is to keep them safe.
Absolutely. What are some suggestions or tips for families whose loved ones are not able to engage as much anymore and don't know how to connect with their loved ones?
Any kind of activity that you can, it becomes difficult. At some point, they really are hard to get engaged. But even in the later stages, just my smiling and laughing and touching their hand is helpful. The worst thing really, I think, is to let them just sit and watch TV for hours and hours and hours. Try to get them engaged in something, even something where they seem not to be paying that much attention. If you're just there and are touching them and smiling at them, that is reinforcing to them.
Is there certain stages that are best for memory cafes?
The early and mid stages, although we take people through all stages, but the early and mid stages when they can really enjoy the entertainment and do the sing along would probably be the best. And then usually some of our people go to Insight a couple days a week. And sometimes after a while, they're not able to engage so much and they would stay at Insight or others, but any stage is okay, but mainly the early and mid stages.
If your care partner cannot attend, I'm sorry, it says care receiver can't attend, can the care partner still come to memory
Sure.
cafes?
A lot of the people in our memory cafe now are people that were caregivers, care partners.
Mhm.
Oh, caregivers. Okay, thank you. It does get confusing, and they come back. So they've lost their loved one, but they come back because, in fact, somebody said to me, be sure and say that you get friends for life through Memory Cafe. They were able to talk about it. As I said, it's not a support group, but they were able to talk about it. They could keep their friends, they can re-engage and have a good time. To be with people that know what it's like to go through this is a very unique experience. Most people don't understand, but we understand.
Absolutely. Well, we are at the end of the program hour, and I want to thank you so much, Carol, for this
Thank
engaging
you.
presentation. It was great. And I want to thank our audience so much for joining us and making space in your day today. We do appreciate your time. And just a quick reminder to do the survey at the end and, let us know what topics you're interested in and what programs you would like to see. This was our first health and wellness session. So we hope that you can join us on Friday, March 31st from 12 to 1 for our second session. It's going to be on pulmonary rehab, helping you breathe easier. If you or a loved one struggles with COPD, shortness of breath, or any pulmonary diseases, this will be a great session to learn more about it. We will have Marjorie McBurney, who's a registered respiratory therapist from Johns Hopkins Medical Center, who's going to demonstrate some exercises that you can do at home. So with that, again, thanks so much, Carol and everyone. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon. Thank you.